So I want to ask you a question. Do you ever feel like you're stuck in life? Do you ever feel like you're somehow always doing the same thing? Even though there's so many resources out there like the internet, you can learn anything basically for free. You can completely transform your life. And yet we feel stuck. Our life is always the same. We always dread fucking Monday, going to work. Like, you probably don't like your work either. And we keep feeling stuck in this kind of cycle, in this rut. It gets darker and darker as time goes on because you just feel like there's no way out. I always felt like if I was able to just stop self-sabotaging, I would just shoot up because I have so much knowledge about so many topics because I just procrastinate on the internet a lot. And so I want to get really deep into why this happens and why we don't have our best interests at heart. And I want to share my advice with you because hopefully it will help you and it will resonate with you as well. When I was a kid, one of my parents was kind of like, and it's still like that, like they're kind of like emotionally distant, so they don't have a lot of affection in them. So I've always felt very unsupported as a kid. And what ended up happening was that I always kind of blamed myself, and then I always tried to compensate for that by trying to impress them, by trying to be smart or by trying to, do something cool. And sometimes I would get approval, sometimes I would get loved by doing these things. What ends up happening is that you end up selling out your love for the love of your parents, because you're trying to survive. That's normal. But then the issue is that the way you talk with yourself and the way your frameworks for inner emotional soothing work is that you learn this from your parents and you carry these out through your adult life, unless you change them, obviously. So how does this relate to the self-sabotage we were talking in the beginning? You see, what ends up happening is because when you're young and you were selling out, for your parents' love because you needed to survive, now you're an adult and you're selling out for a bunch of different things that you're still thinking you need to survive. You keep selling your inner child's wishes and love out for other things in the world, for the approval of other people, for the approval of your ego. Maybe you want to be the guy who has a lot of money or who has a lot of girls or has a lot of status. And yet your inner child, who was exactly the same you when you're a young kid, is starving from your love, is starving for your affection, because you learned these patterns from your parents, right? And so this is very, very nefarious because now you get kind of like this split personality where a part of you, let's say, wants to make a lot of money, wants to be the man, but then your inner child is suffering. You can't really act a lot towards one side, right? Let's say you want to make a lot of money. You'll want to make a lot of money, but then you'll procrastinate and you'll feel like a lot of pain because a part of you is being ignored and is being left unloved. You're conditionally loved yourself, same way your parents conditionally loved you. So we need to get really, really deep here and we need to address this issue because otherwise it's either you're going to keep being stuck and keep, just self-sabotaging your life away. Or let's say that you do end up making a lot of money or having a lot of success, but you'll do that at the expense of your self-love and you'll end up very, very depressed anyway. So what can we do here? In my experience, what has helped me a lot has been meditating. And particularly, there's two kinds of things that I think have the most impact. Number one is reparenting yourself. And reparenting yourself means that during those times where you feel like you're somehow very anxious because, you get this triggered, unlovable feeling that you get from not loving yourself, you can sit down, you can meditate, you can be like, okay, what do you want? Like to your inner child, what do you want? What are you feeling? And then this inner child will typically feel ignored, will typically feel like you're not listening to it or you're not there for it. And you simply allow yourself to be there for it. You allow yourself to feel whatever that inner child is feeling, because this will communicate to them, hey, I'm here, I'm listening to you. Which may have been something you've never done before, or may have been something that nobody ever did for you. The whole point here is to reconnect with the inner child, is to get closer to what it is feeling, because you never allowed yourself to connect with it in the first place. You've always felt like this inner child was like a detriment to your success, instead of understanding that this inner child is basically your soul, dude. It's like the reason, the most beautiful thing you can connect to in your whole life. And the second point, and it ties in with this one, is to learn how to let go of all the things that have pushed you away from that inner child. So you may have certain beliefs. So you can ask yourself, why don't I have my best interests at heart? Why am I rejecting my inner child? And when you ask yourself those things, I mean, obviously you'll have like the good answer, but you can go deeper and understand exactly how you feel, right? Like you can like, why don't I like my inner child? What's wrong with it? What's so hateful about that child? And maybe you can think, maybe it was because of my inner child that my parents divorced. Because as I said before, like when you're young, perhaps you blamed yourself. Maybe you blamed yourself that your parents didn't love you the way you wanted to. Or maybe you blamed yourself that your colleagues at school were bullying you. Yes, it's your responsibility to do something about it, but you just were dealt the cards you were dealt. So at the time, you did the best you could. So there's no reason to be hung up on those past events, past traumas, right? So in summary, the relationship you have with your inner child is causing you to self-sabotage because the inner child feels unloved, feels conditionally loved. And because of that, you will always feel a split inside. So part of you will feel really, really depressed, really, really lonely. And then another part of you will feel angry because you feel like you're not being successful because of that inner child. And this is something you learned from your parents. And so what you want to do in order to heal this relationship is you have to allow yourself to connect with the inner child, understand why are you not connecting with it in the first place, and then learn to forgive it for all the things you blamed it for. And learn to actually realize that it wasn't really their fault. It was just the way you were conditioned. So if you like this kind of content, subscribe because I'll be making more in the future. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.